All right, Joe, do you find it hard to believe how big STEM has gotten over the years? I remember you guys playing in my grandmother's garage for my cousin's graduation party, and then you guys went from something like that to a U.S. tour. It's pretty amazing. Did you ever think the band would get as big as it did?
That's kind of a loaded question, because I've always considered ourselves pretty much just a local band that got lucky, and
Right.
we worked really, really hard to get just about everything we needed. From playing in your grandmother's garage to being able to open up for some major, national tours and national acts locally, and just doing our own independent touring. I mean, that's none of that stuff was really handed to us. So we all have our scars, you know what I mean, for those achievements and stuff. But I'm looking back when I get to talk to fans that I'll never meet, from all over the world, and they got a hold of our music and stuff, that puts things in a different perspective for me. So I'd like to say, we were lucky. We put out some good product and decent product at the time where people were able to relate to it, and they, and we gained a pretty cool fan base out of it, a grassroots fan base, and that's the way I always wanted it.
All right, awesome. I think a big accomplishment for you guys that pretty much everyone knows about is your song Face the Pain is featured as the theme song for the UFC. How did that come about, or how did you guys get that offer?
That was luck also. I have a friend who I've known since I've been coming up. We both were coming up in the music scene together. He was in a band called God's Children back in the day, and he wound up in another band called Clear. But God's Children had done a lot of work with this publisher that had their music. Even to this day, you can just turn on television on certain stations and you hear their music as background music. And he developed a good relationship with a lot of people, and buddy his ended up working for the Ultimate Fighting Championship and requested his music to be sent. But they were just a rock band, and they denied it and said, we're actually looking for something much heavier. And he said, well, I have a friend in another band, or a really heavy band, I'll send their stuff. And they said, sure. So he called me up, asked me to give him a package. He said no promises, and gave him a package. He sent it. About 2 weeks later, the UFC were calling us and saying they wanted to work with us and use some of the tunes. And that was 10 years ago, and we've had a relationship with them ever since the day they called. They use more material from STEM on their television programs than you would ever believe. If we actually sat there and watched a show, and I said, that's STEM, that's STEM, that's us, you'd be shocked. It's more than just the Face the Pain theme song. That was just, they asked us to write a tune, in a fighting theme song and stuff, and they ended up liking it so much they turned it into the theme, and that kind of broke things a little bit bigger for us on an international level.
Right, definitely. You guys had a contract at one time with Ice Cream Records, but was that only to re-release your album Songs for the Incurable Heart?
Yep. We were going through a period of time where we couldn't get on some bigger tours. Everyone that we spoke to, from management to agents, said you need distribution, you need a label to back you. And even when we were touring with bands like Chimera, this is like the changing of the industry. There was no more friends calling friends and saying, hey man, you guys want to come out and tour, unless this is like Ozfest personally asking Black Label Society to open for them. They would pick the bands that they wanted on the main stage. Everything else on the second stage was a buy-on, and the buy-on fees started turning into more of a thing in the business. So even if you're friends with Chimera, like which we were, they used to take us on the road all the time. All of a sudden now their agents, their labels are starting to say, well, if you want them on the road for 2 weeks, they have to buy onto the tour, which basically, you can put up anywhere from $10,000, to be out on the tour, and then you get none of that back. You give them $10,000, which goes to their agents and their management and their lawyers and everything, and you live off of your merchandise sales. You don't even get paid. That's where a label comes in to give you tour support. Which if the label puts up $10,000 to buy on, and then says you're going to be on the road for 2 weeks with this band, and you can't survive off of merchandise, so we're going to give you an additional $10,000 to be out on the road. Well, now you're $20,000 in the hole. It's like basically going and taking a mortgage out for a house. You still owe that money back. So it's a very vicious, corrupt circle that the music business has been going into, and we took this deal with Ice Cream Records because they said they'd redistribute us on a national level, but as far as the other things we were hoping for, which was some financial support, that didn't happen. So we lived and learned on that one as far as Ice Cream Records went.
Is that why a few years later you guys started your own label?
The Catch22 Records label. Right. Yeah, we started that one because while we were working with Ice Cream, they basically did nothing for us, and we started doing all the research, what it would take to get CDs stocked in the stores on a regional level to appease, managers and agents and everything like that. And we basically overrode everything that Ice Cream Records was going to do to a point where they put a halt on everything. We got out of our contract, and the person that we were actually purchasing CDs from when we were independent turns out had his own record label that he had years and years ago. I mean, like, I'm talking like back when I was a kid. Like, he signed Biohazard, their first for their first CD that actually broke them. He signed another band called Ripping Corpse. He signed a band called Bathory, and he still held his distribution. And he was so impressed by how much we were selling as an independent band after I told him everything we were going through, what I mean, with this label. Yeah. He helped us get out of our contract with them and cut a side deal with his distribution. So he basically showed us how to set up our own label. We called it Catch22 Records. He gave us a cut of his distribution, and we went on with that. Unfortunately, we didn't have thousands and thousands of dollars to give ourselves tour support or anything like that, but it was a good way for anyone in the country or anyone in the world to get a hold of our disc, even if it was through iTunes and Amazon, .com or something like that. The distribution label really opened things up for us, and we were still always an independent, going through all this.
Right. Are you guys still running the label at all?
We're running the label now that the band's no longer. His Name Was Yesterday was also signed to our label, and we still have product to sell, and as long as people are buying it, then we're going to keep putting it out there.
Awesome. On the Stemm Facebook page, a couple days before your guys' farewell show, you guys mentioned that a lot of people didn't know about the band coming to an end. Could you tell those who don't know and still don't know why the band decided to end?
Well, we've been doing this for 14 years. I've been doing it for 14 years. There's a lot of, members that have been in and out over the years. And when you get as involved as you do with the scene, and it does turn into a business. If you want to survive, in the music world, it turns into a business. And we learned a lot. And like I said, we were to the point where we were able to open up our own label. We were able to book our own tours, and get out there. But, the economy, gas prices are really high. I mean, we used to be able to do a weekend of tours, and go down to North Carolina for a Thursday, Friday, and Saturday and get paid anywhere from $50 to $150 a week. A show. And just bank on our merchandise also, and we'd come back with money. And now you can't even drive down to North Carolina, you know what I mean, right. Without it costing $200-$300. A lot of things we did as an independent band, as far as keeping ourselves alive, dealing with publicists, sending our CD out for review and interviews, to online zines, to print magazines, to for CD review or anything like that. We would have enough money, 5 years ago to be able to do that, to even invest in a national radio promotion thing where it would go national. So we hired the same company that releases, the Lamb of God CD that's working that to MTV and everything. We had enough money to generate that, to try and get that. The problem is, and now in the past couple of years, labels can see how a band like us, and we're not the only ones. There's tons of other bands out there that we're capable of doing this. We're capable of being just as competitive with the bands that they sign. So in retaliation, what they do is they'll walk up to the same company and they'll say, how much are you charging? What is your base rate? And if they say, well, it's $5,000 for an 8-week run, they'll say, awesome, here's 10 grand for an 8-week run with one of our bands. And of course, you know what I mean, these promotion people, they're going to work with the band, you know, with the label or the company that's going to constantly give them a cash flow. And you know, you're in the back seat. Now it turns back into luck. Is it a good song? Is it going to get played? You know,
right.
and or is it really going to get some elbow grease where the promotion company is actually going to say, no, you have to play this song. Do me a favor, I'll do you a favor. You know, blah 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 blah, and it just goes right down the trough. Like, those days are really over. And we started seeing this with our last release, where we were able to make some headway and really generate some sales and generate some tours where we could keep going and just keep looking to the next record or looking to the next tour, where all of a sudden these doors are closed. And even the relationships we've developed with these people in the business, we're scratching their heads and just saying, I'm sorry, guys, you know, there's nothing that we can really do. And it was coming down to, well, maybe if you guys can find an investor who's willing to throw you guys $150,000, we could turn this thing around. I'm not, you know, 14 years into the game, I'm not willing to, you know what I mean, to put myself into something like that. I already have an $80,000 mortgage. It's going to take me 30 years to pay that off. You know, maybe if I was 22 again, or 25, you know, it's you know, that would be a chance I'd be willing to take. But, you know, in the meantime, band members, you know, that have been with the band for, you know, in the past 10 years, we just started not really feeling it ourselves. I mean, we loved each other as a band, you know, playing with each other, jamming with each other, the friendships that we have, that's never going to be taken away from us. But the responsibilities of just being in the band, to just come down to practice, was starting to get lesser and lesser. And all of a sudden our interests were peaking in other things. Our drummer wound up in a country band and wound up loving it. Total, the entire time, 20 years of playing drums, all he's ever played is death metal and metal. And now he's in a country band. And it was like shell shock to him, because he absolutely loves country, you know, also. And now he got an offer to do this close to home and making some money, and he loved it. And, you know, so that was something. And me too. Like, I really enjoy what I do, what we've done with the UFC, you know, writing songs for them, and, you know, you get some kickback out of that. And I want more. You know, I enjoy that. I love being in the studio. I love creating. We've sold our songs to video games, you know, other TV shows and stuff, and to be able to kick back and watch that on TV, or, you know, and get a check for it, that's kind of fun. Yeah. You know what I mean? But to be able to, you know, you know, so our interests were just basically, you know, not fully directed on STEM and what needed to be done. And that's when we decided maybe we should end the band, you know, as friends, because we all know where this is going to go. Eventually we're going to get frustrated. We're going to start fighting with each other over things that are completely out of our control, and we'd rather keep our friendship than, you know, than go down this road.
Right.
You know,
exactly.
So, and that's why we decided to do one last show, call back ex-members. You know what I mean? Have them come back so fans could see all eras of what the band had done over the past 14 years. And, you know, that was the show of my life last Saturday. That was fun to be back up on stage with guys I haven't jammed with Louie in 10 years. And just the rehearsals we did, just the laughter and the memories, and, you know, everything that we went through was just, it was a blast. And then bringing it into a live atmosphere, you know, one last time was incredible. You know, just to look over and see Louie doing something, you know, that we started 14 years ago, see him back up on stage was incredible. So
you kind of answered the next question, so I'll skip that one. Now, you said the drummer is in a country band now. What about you? Do you have any plans with music at all in the future?
Just, I'm focusing right now on songwriting. You know, and I'm going to eventually get a band off the ground, but, you know, my goal this time around is to just demo, record some songs, send them to my connections, you know, that I've made over the years that have helped me, you know what I mean? And UFC people are one of them. And really see if I can build a career as a songwriter. I'm always going to play live. I'm doing a side project thing right now, which, you know, it's a tribute to Pearl Jam, and just doing that, making some money, having some fun with my friends, and eventually, you know, this other thing that I've got going on as far as songwriting goes, we want to get it off the ground, but not as a main focus where we need to get out on the road. We need to get a record deal. We need an agent. We'd be real happy to know that we're writing and selling tunes, and then, you know, playing the local bar down the road and just making, just having some fun with it again. And like I said, when you get into a band and take a band to that type of level, it turns into a business. And when you don't have a manager or someone like that to help you, you know, you start focusing more on the business. And all of a sudden, playing a show anymore, you know, even while you're stepping up on stage, you've got numbers running through your head. And that's not why I got into music. You know, I wouldn't care where we played. You know, we're playing North Carolina for $300, you know, for a weekend. Cool, let's go.
As long as you're playing.
Exactly. And now, you know, we don't do that. You know, I literally used to be able, towards the end of the band, I'd be able to look at a calendar and all the shows that we have, and I'd know our budget for the month, the bills that need to be paid, you know, money owed, you know, all that stuff, and that's how I was looking at shows, and that's not fun. It totally sucks the life out of you as being an artist, a musician, like all that stuff.
Right.
Until you walk out on stage and, you know, and you play, you know, in front of fans. That's the only time you really feel like an artist again, you know, and you can appreciate what you're doing. And then you walk off stage and you've got someone grabbing you because they need to get paid, and club wants to settle up, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I just kind of want to take a different approach, you know, with this. So, but ironically, 2 members of Stemm are in the Tribute to Pearl Jam band with me, and Danny's doing his own thing, and the songwriting thing, my bass player Mario in Stemm is doing the songwriting project with me too. So, like I said, we're all still friends. We just knew it was this time to end it, as far as Stemm goes.
So, I think that kind of answers the last question. Do you think Stemm will ever have a comeback or release stuff?
A comeback?
Yeah.
No.
No.
Nope. I mean, that was, like I said, that show we did, that was the show of my life. And even when we walked off stage, we were in the back, even talking a couple days ago, everyone in the band said that was the show of our lives. You know, even the ex-members who came back and only did a handful of tunes with us, they said that was the show of their lives. And the energy that the crowd had, I mean, the way people came out, you know, and how they reacted to the entire show, I mean, you just can't recreate that. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, even at the after party, people were like, well, why don't you just recreate that show every year? And no, you know, because people take it for granted, and it won't be as important to come out and see it next year. And you can't really recreate that. You know, it's like asking Slayer to do another Rain in Blood. It's like asking Pearl Jam to do another 10 record. They did it. They can't do it again. And if they try, you're going to see that they tried. When the way they did those records back then, those classic records, they weren't trying. It just happened. Just, you know, and we don't want to be one of those novelty bands where, you know, like Kiss. I mean, how many times has Kiss retired and broke up and coming back for one more tour? And, you know, and we don't want to be a band like that. And we want to end it the way, you know, we did the other day. And you know, the music's still out there. CDs are still out there. They can enjoy it, and we're still there too. We still like talking to the fans. We're still on all the social sites and emails. Everyone knows how to get in touch with us, and we like talking to them. And you know, that's basically how we want to end it. So, no, there will not be a reunion show.
I think that's about it. If you have anything else you want to say.
No, I'm good, man. I'm good.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being here.
Yeah, not a problem. Thanks for asking.
Yeah.